Story time! When I was in 6th grade, my mom would pick me up from school early most days out of the week, which I didn't have a problem with because who wouldn't want to get picked up early from school? Anyways, I noticed that every single time she would pick me up, we would go buy food and then my mom would bring it to this tire shop. I never saw who she gave the food to until one day she came back to the car with a guy, we'll just call him Julio. Anyways, my mom and Julio were being very touchy and flirty with each other, but my 11-year-old self didn't think anything other than it's just a friend she knows from high school. So we continuously meet him about 3 times a week, bringing him lunch and stuff, and then I saw my mom texting Julio and it said, "Hola mi rey, espero verte más a rato." So I was like, "Oh, who's that, mom?" And she said, "Oh, it's just Julio." So that's when I realized that they were more than just friends from high school. So I told her that I knew what she was doing, but I wasn't going to say anything to my stepdad because I don't like him. So this keeps happening for about a month where me and my mom would leave at night and not come home till later. But whenever my stepdad would ask, we would just say that we were at my grandma's house. I started getting really close to Julio and he was always buying me gifts and clothes and taking me to my dance practices. So I started getting really close with Julio and he was always buying me gifts and clothes and taking me to my dance practices. And one day when he was picking me up from dance practice, I get in his car and he pulls out an angel necklace with a real diamond in the center of it. He told me that I was never allowed to take it off, so I never did until the diamond fell off in the middle of class one day and I never found it again. That same day that the diamond fell off the necklace, me and my mom get home and my stepdad was pissed. And we were just like, oh no. So we asked him what's wrong and he just grabbed my mom's phone and goes to the texts between Julio and her, which are extremely flirty and inappropriate if you ask me. He then started screaming at my mom and they started arguing, but they didn't want the neighbors to hear, so me, my mom, and my sister all get in my mom's car and my stepdad took his car. We drive to an abandoned grocery store and we all sat in the parking lot for a little. Then my mom and my stepdad get out of their cars and they started screaming at each other again. They're fighting for a good 2 to 3 hours, and when they were finally done fighting, it was like 2 in the morning and we went to go get ice cream. We've never talked to Julio again. Low-key miss him though. He was a really good guy. Story time! So about a year ago, I had a boyfriend. We'll call him Jacob. Me and him had been dating for about half a year, and one day when me and him were on the phone, he tells me that he's thinking about bringing a gun to school. I told him not to do it and that it was a stupid idea, and he says, okay. I thought that was the end of it and didn't think about it much after that. About a week later, I'm in school and he texted me in the middle of history, which was the second to last class of the day. He asked me to meet him, so I go to his locker and he pulls out a pistol. He asked me if I could take it so he doesn't get in trouble, and I said no and that I told him not to bring it. He got mad and said, well, I hope you know I'm probably gonna get suspended. I was angry but didn't say anything. I walked away and went back to class, not planning on saying anything because I knew he wouldn't use it. I was in my last class of the day when I asked to go to the bathroom. When I got back, my friend walks up to me and tells me that the police had came in looking for me. My heart dropped. I knew immediately that that meant that he had gotten caught. I sat through the rest of my class, and when it was over, I tried to get out of the school as fast as I could. I passed the lobby and another friend of mine walked up to me and told me that in the middle of class, Jacob had gotten arrested. I wasn't surprised, and when I told my mom about it, we called Jacob's mom. Hardly even 30 seconds into the call, she hangs up saying that her dad, Jacob's grandpa, had called her and told her that Jacob hadn't gotten off the bus at home. She called us back and told us, and I told her everything that happened, and she called the school. They didn't even call her. They told her that it was because they couldn't call until they were done questioning. Apparently, she drove to the school and caused a scene. He was only suspended for about 10 days, but the second me and Jacob spoke, I told him that I thought it was best we break up or at least take a break. We broke up and I haven't spoke to him since. When I was 17, I moved to another store because it was closer to my high school and home. For those of you who don't know, I worked at a fast food restaurant. There was a lady there, we'll call her Peaches. She was my manager. Now Peaches was in her 50s or her 60s and I was only 17. I had already worked there for about 2 months when this guy started working there. We'll call him Bronx. So Peaches and Bronx did not get along, mainly because Bronx sucked at working. He was really bad at his job. Me and Bronx, though, we got along. He was really cool, and I was one of the only people Bronx would talk to at the store. I would only work Mondays through Thursdays, so I wasn't there when the situation happened. It was a Friday or Saturday night. Drive was really busy, and Bronx kept disappearing on Peaches. He was just doing things, and it was taking forever. Peaches got really frustrated and started screaming at Bronx really bad in front of some of the customers in Drive and front. She fired him on the spot, and he went home. Now, I was off Fridays and the weekends, so I didn't hear about the chisme until I went back on Monday. I walked in and I saw Bronx with our GM, and I hear our GM telling him that he can keep his job. I asked Bronx what happened, and that's when he spilled the chisme. Later that night, that's when I noticed that Peaches started acting differently towards me. So that was Bronx last night working with me since he was going to get his schedule switched so he wouldn't have to be around Peaches. That night, I noticed Peaches had an attitude with me and she was getting on me for small stuff, and Peaches was never like that with me. She was always really kind to me, so obviously I was like, what the hell is wrong with her? So I just figured it was a bad night until she acted the same way towards me the next night. So I asked my coworker if he knew why she was acting like that towards me, and he said, yeah, but you're not gonna like it. I told him to tell me. He said, okay, but you better not tell anyone. He then said Peaches is mad because someone called and left a review talking about how Peaches treated Bronx that night, and Peaches is saying that you're the one who did it. And she's mad because the GM yelled at her really bad. And she's also telling everyone that you and Bronx have a thing together and that you guys stay up on the phone all night together and that you guys like each other. Bronx was a 35, 37-year-old man. What the hell am I going to be doing with a 30-year-old man at 17 years old? And I didn't even have his number. I've been in the same relationship since I was 15. And I thought it was messed up that she was accusing me of all these things when I wasn't even there that night. And I was just going to leave it like that, but I knew I had to confront her about it. So it was the next day. I knew what I was going to say to her. I was ready to confront her. But while I'm at the store, everyone's literally talking about how Peaches was just diagnosed with cancer. So obviously it changed everything. I couldn't just approach her like that, especially if she was just diagnosed. Like, I'm not going to start an argument with her. So we went through Rush, and after it was done, she was smoking outside, and I saw it as an opportunity to go talk to her. I walk out there, and we had a mini conversation, and then that's when I bring up the Bronx situation and what I heard. So she asked me exactly what was said and who told me, and obviously I didn't tell her because I'm not a snitch, but I did tell her what I heard. She then tells me, no, I didn't say that, and you should know by now that all the people in this store are liars. She then says, but I did think you were the one who reported me to our GM about the Bronx situation. I told her no, why would I even do that, and second, how would I even report it if I wasn't even there when it happened? I had just found out on Monday, and if anything, one of the customers reported it because she was yelling in front of the customers. So she just agreed and told me how she was yelled at really bad by the GM about the situation, and then after that, everything went back to normal, but I still kept my distance because I still feel like she was the one saying those things about me. And she was literally the only one who had a reason to talk about me like that, but she still denies it. Story time! So this one day I woke up and I had remembered about this cup that I saw a few days ago and I really liked it, so I decided that I was going to go get it. That's what the cup looks like if you guys are curious. So I get in the truck, and as I'm driving to the store, I get a call from my mom. I pick up, and the first thing she says is, Steph, I feel so bad. I ask her why, and she says, Bella needed to go outside, so I opened the door to the backyard, but I didn't see that there was a squirrel eating something on the floor, but Bella saw it. So she chased after it, and the squirrel ran up a tree, but I guess she scared it so bad because when it was sitting on one of the branches, it looked like it blacked out and it fell to the floor. And where the squirrel fell, there was a nest of wasps living underground. So all the squirrels came out and all the wasps came out. So all the wasps came out and they started singing it. My mom was so mad at my dog. She felt so bad for the squirrel. So after we talked a little more, I asked her if my dog was okay. She said, yeah. We hang up. And 2 days later, I forget about the squirrel situation. I'm enjoying my life, but then my dog needs to go outside. So I opened the door for her to go outside, and guess who's there? Yep. The squirrel. So my dog being a dog, she chases after it, but instead of the squirrel going up a tree, it goes up our fence. And our fence is pretty tall, as you can see in the video, especially for a squirrel and a dog. So the squirrel is just chilling, sitting on top of the fence. My dog is just sitting down on the floor looking at it. It can't reach it, so it's just barking at it. But then all of a sudden, the squirrel starts running from left to right, right to left on top of the fence. And my dog, the pendeja, is following it, and she's doing the exact same thing. I call for her, but she doesn't listen because she's too busy running from side to side, following the pinche squirrel. So as my dog is running from side to side, I see something fly past her, and then I see another thing fly past her, and I remember about that underground wasp nest that my mom told me about, and I realized Bella was running all over it. So all these wasps were coming out, and I don't know why, it was so stupid, but I run to the hose that was right next to me, thinking that if I spray them, they'll go away. And as soon as I turn around, I see a freaking wasp coming straight at my face. It was like in slow motion. Me and that wasp literally made. So when I turned around, that's when the wasp was flying straight towards my face, and we literally made eye contact. So I dropped the hose, and me and Bella book it. We both go running to the door, and for some reason, I turned around and I looked at the fence, and there was the squirrel staring at us. We get inside, and obviously I was screaming, so my family asked me what's wrong, and as soon as I'm about to answer, boom, I get stung near my butt. And I yell, Bella ran on the wasps, and I hear someone say, damn it, Stephanie, you brought them into the house. I'm still getting stung, and I see so many of them flying around the house. There was at least 20 or 25 of them. So then someone else tells me to lock myself in my room, and in my head I'm like, hell no, because then I'll be trapped in a room with them. And they were only stinging me and my dog. So as I'm trying to take them off of me, the guys in the house are trying to kill them. Bella's hiding somewhere, so I go looking for her, and I find her under a bed with 3 wasps on her head. After they killed the wasps, everything finally calmed down. Me and my dog took a shower, and my poor little baby was in so much pain. So later that night, I thought it over, and I realized that squirrel was out for revenge. It was almost as if it planned it. Like, are squirrels that smart, guys? I don't know. But we found that squirrel run over 2 weeks later, so the poor little guy just could not win. Okay, so this is a story time of when I worked at this fast food restaurant. So I was a lobby closer after I got out of school. I go to work and I wouldn't get out till like 12 or 1 in the morning. At this store, lobby closed at 10 p.m. and one of the rules were that at 10 you lock the doors and no one is allowed to come in at all. So this one night it was raining outside. It was already past 10 and I hear someone knocking on the door. So I look up to see who's knocking and I see this girl. She looks like she's 16 or 17. Her hair is where her clothes is wet and she waves at me and she points at the door. Now people do this all the time. They would be drunk or something trying to get something to eat and I would just tell them that we're closed and they would leave. So I mouth, "We're closed," and I see her say, "Please," and she points at her chest. So I walk up to the door and this is a glass door, so when you're close you could hear the other person talking, and I say, "Your chest?" and she says, "Yes, I can't breathe." So instantly I'm like, well shit, I'm not gonna leave her out in the rain not breathing. So I call for my manager and I let him know that I'm gonna let her in, and he's not happy about it, but he lets me do it anyways. So as soon as I open the door, she walks in, and this is when things took a turn for the worst. Okay, I'm so sorry for taking forever to post part 2. I was not expecting this video to blow up. I literally woke up to all of you commenting. But here's part 2. Okay, so basically when I let her into the door, her personality just completely changes. Like, she goes from this damsel in distress to like hyperventilating like crazy. She's hysterical. She's crying so bad. She looks so confused. She's so out of it. And I'm not gonna lie, she was starting to freak me out a little bit just by how she was acting. So I called 911 because she's still saying, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe." But in my head, I realized that she's hyperventilating, so she can breathe. So at this point, I'm thinking she's either on drugs or she's like having a panic attack or an anxiety attack. But either way, I call 911 and the operator tells me to stay on the phone with them until the ambulance shows up. So they finally show up. They walk through the door, pero yo de chismosa, I stayed in the lobby pretending to clean so I could listen to what happens next. They walk in and they finally get her to calm down after a few minutes, and this is when things, so the EMTs finally get her to calm down and they start talking to her and asking her a few questions, and I see one of the EMTs walk out, and I'm guessing it's to check her information. And when he walks back in, he says something to the other EMT and they say that they're going to call for the police and that she's not in trouble. A few minutes later, a police officer shows up and I'm so confused because I don't know what's going on. So he walks in and it's pretty obvious that he recognizes her. He even calls her by her first name. He's talking to her and I hear him tell her that she's supposed to be at the hospital and asked her how she got out and what she's doing out here so late. Now, I was on the other side of the lobby and she answered his questions so quietly, so I didn't get to hear what she said. But then he tells her, "Okay, well, why don't you get in my car and we'll drive you back?" So she agrees and they all get ready to leave, and I hear the officer say to the EMT, "Yeah, she's supposed to be at the mental hospital. She escaped twice this week. She does this all the time." So they tell me bye and walk out the door, and I'm standing there in shock because I thought it was a girl having health problems, but it was actually a mental patient who escaped the mental hospital. Story time! On April 24th, me and my boyfriend got together, and it was a fairy tale phase for a couple of days, but then day 5 hit. He came over to my house, and we were only supposed to kiss, but one thing led to another, and you already know. When I tell you I regretted doing that, I really did, because while it was happening, I went through his phone, and I saw messages between him and his friend. I pushed him off of me, and I asked him why he was texting another female, and he said he doesn't care for her or like her in that way, and that they're only friends, so I forgave him. After that, I thought I was pregnant, and I was only 13 at the time, so I had to go get a pill, and I was really scared. A few days later, he came over again, and I ended up looking through his phone again, and I found a picture of another female. I started crying a lot because that was the second time that I had found something like this in his phone. I wouldn't have cared if we were broken up or if nothing happened between us, but we were still together. He then told me that that picture was from a while ago, so I forgave him again. A few days later, I get a message from him telling me that he wants to break up. I was sad, so I told him to come over so we could talk about things, and he did, and we got back together. From that day on, I haven't checked his phone since I'm too scared that I'm going to find something that I don't want to find. But I'm now 2 months pregnant, and I still haven't told him. So one day I was on my way home from school, and I got in the house, and I heard my dad doing it with my uncle's wife. So I opened the door silently to make sure I was right before I called my uncle, and I was right. My aunt was giving my dad. I then went to my room and called my uncle, and he told me to go in there and say he's pulling up in the driveway and to let him know what they do after I told them. So I walked in there and told them, and my aunt ended up jumping out the window, and my dad ran down the stairs and he fell and passed out. A few minutes later, my uncle finally gets there, and he gets his wedding ring, throws it down the garbage disposal, and turns it on so the ring is destroyed. He then takes my aunt and my dad to the hospital, and when they felt better, he tells them that he has a surprise for them. When my aunt and dad get to the house, they walk in, and my uncle is beep, my aunt's mom, and my dad's mom. So, moral of the story, don't with my uncle, because you don't know what type of payback you can get. And I just wanted to say thank you all for 40K. I appreciate you all, and thanks to those who submitted their stories. Story time! When I was little, my dad always took me to go get ice cream. It was just our thing from time to time, and there was a man who always met us there who my dad called his business partner. But little did I know he wasn't really his business partner. So one Friday after school, I told my mom that every time we go get ice cream, we see my dad's friend who he calls his business partner. That's when shit went down. My dad didn't have a job, and my mom always had a suspicion that my dad was gay. So the next day, my dad takes me to go get ice cream, and not to mention, it was a very long ride. Both me and my dad didn't know that my mom was following us to the ice cream shop. We get there, I'm eating my ice cream, and my mom walks in through the door. And she looks shocked as to what she saw. My mom sees my dad holding hands with a man, but that man that my dad was holding hands with and constantly meeting up with was my mom's old LGBTQ friend from high school. Later that day, my mom asked my dad, "Are you gay?" And he came out to her, and turns out his mom always knew but didn't say a word. My dad ended up leaving my mom for him, and now they're married. Story time! So this one day I needed to go to Walmart, and usually my boyfriend goes with me to the store, but I had made him mad at the same Walmart like 2 days ago. And he was asleep too, so I just decided to go by myself. So while I'm there, I go to the candy aisle, and there's 2 women standing there, but they left, so I was alone in the aisle. As I'm standing there, there's this guy with a scooter who walks into the same aisle, and he looks like the Walmart version of Tyler, the Creator. And I see that he's staring at me, but he's not staring at my face. He's staring at the lower half of me. So in my head, I'm like, oh, do I have something on me? Like, does he think my outfit is ugly? So he passes me, and I just hear him say, "Can you show me your feet?" And I just say, "No, what the hell?" And he just shrugs and walks away. So I start texting my boyfriend to tell him what happened, but then I see him pass the end of the aisle, and he's just staring at my feet, and then he walks away. I had slippers and socks on that day, so there was no way he could see my feet. But he seemed really comfortable asking me, so I wonder how many other people he's asked that before, or like in the store. And even if I was down to show him my feet, I would have charged him. Like, who just shows feet for free? So I'm 16 and my sister's 17, and she has a boyfriend who's 18. And he was like a brother to me up until last summer. So my parents were on vacation, leaving only me and my sister in the house. My sister thought it would be a good idea to have a movie night, so I agreed, and she called her boyfriend over. We were all hanging out till my sister decided to go to the store to get some snacks, leaving only me and my sister's boyfriend alone. As we were alone, we start talking, one thing leads to another, and before we know it, we're making out on the couch. After that, we start sneaking around and doing the nasty, but that's not the worst part. I'm dating his cousin, and I'm also pregnant, and I don't know whose baby it is. I don't know what to do. When I was little, I used to have a little crusty white dog. I was 5, and me and my cousin would take the dog to the top of the shelf, and we would throw her off until she broke both of her legs. I was 5, and obviously I'm not proud of it now and regret it a lot, but I just wanted to get it off of my chest. I feel like my cousin makes me feel like less. It's always like she wants it to be her. She's not blood either, and I get it if she feels left out because I'm my uncle's favorite, and she saw a screenshot of it and told him, and then he got mad at me. And somehow my grandma manages to compare me to her. And her family is just straight up toxic. Her dad always wanted to only be my aunt and is always up to my mom. Am I in the wrong for hiding myself and my kids from my toxic mom? So my mom and dad have been together for over 27 years, and just last year my mom found out that my dad was cheating and wanted to leave her. Mind you, my dad has always wanted to leave for many years, but stayed because he couldn't leave my siblings and me. So after my dad finally left my mother, she turned into a psycho and started harassing my dad and his girlfriend. She got all of us involved and even the grandkids. She admitted to having over 5 affairs with my dad's friends, and 3 of which I know because I, her middle child, confirmed it and told him. So after a while, when she couldn't get my dad to come back, she went to go see a bruja because if he wasn't going to be with her, he wasn't going to be with anybody. She did something to make my dad stay with her, and now my 2 siblings and my dad just can't seem to get away from her at all. Her actions forced me to go into hiding because she started to threaten me and my kids. Honestly, I don't think you're in the wrong at all. As a mother, your number 1 priority should be protecting your kids, and that's exactly what you're doing. If I was in your position, I would do the exact same thing. I don't think you should feel guilty because she is doing all these crazy things and she threatened your kids. If anything, I'm actually really proud of you for protecting yourself and especially your kids.